A magnificent table, worthy of a royal banquet, was set. Fine porcelain plates, crystal glasses, and an opulent feast with dishes impeccably arranged. Yet, something stood out. The chairs around the table were empty. An unsettling silence filled the hall where, usually, laughter and lively conversations reigned. What could have happened for no one to show up? It was an unusual night for that wealthy family, accustomed to grand Christmas parties. Invitations had been sent weeks in advance, and everything was impeccably prepared for an unforgettable celebration. But the absence of all the guests revealed something unexpected. The feast is ready, but no one came. What does this say about our lives and priorities? This question invites us to reflect on the true meaning of Christmas. As the story unfolds, we are guided to a deeper understanding of what truly matters during celebrations. Is it the pomp and luxury, or genuine connections and love? The house buzzed with last-minute preparations. Servants scurried back and forth, adjusting details, while the matriarch, dressed in an elegant red gown, supervised everything with a watchful eye. In the kitchen, chefs were putting the finishing touches on sophisticated dishes, and in the grand hall, candles were lit, casting a warm glow over the crystal and porcelain. Every detail seemed meticulously planned to impress. Upstairs, the children were getting ready. The eldest daughter agonized over her choice of expensive dresses, dissatisfied with anything that didn't make her stand out. The youngest son, indifferent, adjusted his tie in front of the mirror, more engrossed in the messages on his phone than in the evening ahead. Both, though participating, displayed the indifference of those who saw this as just another ordinary night. In the heart of the house, the father fastened a pocket watch to his vest. Proud, he admired the grandeur he had built over the years. To him, the dinner wasn't just a celebration. It was a showcase of the family's status. "Everyone will remember tonight," he remarked with a satisfied smile as he looked out the window, awaiting the arrival of the first cars. But the watch, that silent companion, ticked with an almost cruel precision. Hours passed, yet no footsteps or laughter came from outside. The anticipation began to turn into unease. The mother, now wearing a nervous smile, tried to reassure everyone. They must be delayed because of traffic. It's Christmas, after all. Minutes turned into an hour. The food on the table grew cold, the candles began to melt, and the grand hall remained empty. The daughter descended the stairs, irritated. "Why hasn't anyone arrived yet? This makes no sense." The father, attempting to mask his frustration, repeatedly checked his pocket watch, while the mother, now silent, began to feel the weight of the stillness. The watch continued its relentless ticking. The festive atmosphere that once filled the house had turned into an uncomfortable sense of unfulfilled expectation. Each member of the family dealt with the discomfort in their own way. The father cloaked himself in pride, the mother battled rising anxiety, and the children questioned the situation aloud. The absence of guests, a simple thing, began to reveal cracks in what was supposed to be a perfect evening. It wasn't just the empty hall. It was the uncomfortable realization that perhaps the dinner they had prepared didn't hold the meaning they believed it did. And so, the stage was set. The tension grew, and the question lingered in the air. What if no one comes? The anxiety had now transformed into a heavy shadow that loomed over the hall. The father, visibly uncomfortable, sat at the table, trying to maintain his composed demeanor. But his gaze wandered to the empty chairs as if searching for an explanation. The mother, restless, ran her hands over the finely arranged plates, adjusting details that were already perfect. The silence was broken only by the faint ticking of the wall clock. "Did we get the date wrong?" the daughter asked, trying to mask her unease with a tone of irritation. "This doesn't make sense. No one replied to the messages, no one called." Her words carried the frustration of someone who felt ignored. The youngest son, staring at his phone, replied without looking up, "Maybe no one cared." That phrase, uttered indifferently, hit the parents like a blow to the heart. The father stood abruptly and walked to the window. The street outside was dark and empty, as though the world had forgotten their home. Impossible. People know how important this night is. We always prepare everything so carefully. But there was a crack in his voice, something that betrayed the vulnerability behind his mask of confidence. The mother, unable to bear the weight of the absence, sat on the couch, staring at the lights of the Christmas tree. Maybe the problem isn't with them, maybe it's with us. Her voice was a whisper, but it carried a truth no one wanted to face. The grandeur of the dinner, which once seemed like a testament to success, now felt like a monument to the emotional emptiness that filled their home. Meanwhile, the hours continued to pass. The food on the table grew cold, the candles burned out, and the decorations that once sparkled with life now seemed like melancholy reminders of something unattainable. The hall, so meticulously adorned, felt lifeless, devoid of voices, laughter, or human warmth to bring it to life. The tension mounted. The father tried calling some guests, but the calls went straight to voicemail. The mother, in a desperate gesture, sent messages, but no replies came. It was as if the house, once so full of life, had been completely forgotten by the world outside. As time dragged on, a sense of defeat settled over them. Each family member dealt with it differently. The daughter stormed off to her room, furious, while the son remained on his phone, now in silence. The father and mother sat side by side on the couch, not exchanging words but silently sharing the weight of their desolation. At that moment, the lavish dinner, the glow of the lights, and the sophistication of the details lost all meaning. The emptiness around the table was more than the absence of people. It was a reflection of the emptiness that existed within them. Thus, the loneliness became a turning point. It wasn't just about who hadn't come, but about what they were truly seeking that night. What was missing wasn't physical presence, but something much greater. Connection, purpose, and genuine love. The mother, still sitting on the couch, looked at the table with tear-filled eyes. Her voice broke the heavy silence. All this food, and no one to share it with. It doesn't make sense to just leave it here without purpose. The daughter, descending the stairs after hearing the comment, responded with disdain. "And what are we going to do? Throw it away? This was all a waste." But suddenly, the youngest son, who had been silent until then, looked up from his phone and made a suggestion that changed the course of the night. "What if we went out? There are so many people out there who have nothing. Maybe we could share it with them." The idea hung in the air, shocking in its simplicity. The father, initially hesitant, replied, "That's absurd. That's not how we do things." But the mother, in a rare moment of decisiveness, stood up and declared, "Maybe it's time we did things differently." The idea faced resistance. The daughter complained, the father questioned the safety and logistics, but the mother persisted. Think about the meaning of Christmas. It's not about us or this house. It's about love and generosity. If no one came to us, why can't we go to them? Her voice was firm, almost pleading, and the spark in her eyes reflected a flame that had long seemed extinguished. Eventually, they all agreed. They wrapped the dishes in foil, packed the food into boxes, and loaded everything into the car. The once perfect table was cleared, and the gleaming decorations in the hall were left behind as the family stepped out the door. For the first time that night, their movements had purpose, and the silence gave way to a renewed energy. The night was cold, and Christmas lights flickered on the lampposts, creating an almost magical atmosphere. As they drove, they passed places they had never noticed before. Street corners where people huddled around makeshift fires, small groups sheltered under bridges, simple families sitting on modest porches. It was as though a new world had been revealed to them, one invisible until that moment. They stopped at a park where a group of people had gathered, clearly trying to keep warm. The mother was the first to step out, carrying a covered tray. "Good evening," she said with a timid smile. The faces of the people turned toward her, suspicious at first, but soon softened as they recognized the sincerity in her gesture. The other family members followed, handing out food and gradually engaging in conversations. The father, who had once exuded pride and arrogance, now listened intently to the story of a man who had lost everything. The daughter, so concerned with appearances, helped a woman pack food for her children. The youngest son, who had seemed indifferent, played with children running around, laughing for the first time that night. The simple act of sharing food became something much greater. Each face, each story, each silent expression of gratitude touched something deep within them. It wasn't just about giving, it was about receiving something they didn't know they needed: perspective, empathy, and a genuine connection with others. As they returned to the car, the silence was different. It was no longer heavy, but contemplative. Each of them carried a new feeling, as though something inside them had been transformed. That night, which had begun as a symbol of frustration, became a moment of redemption. The car stopped in a square, dimly lit with modest Christmas lights, where humble families gathered around benches and trees decorated with simplicity. The atmosphere was warm but understated. Without hesitation, the mother opened the trunk and began organizing the dishes. "Let's set up the dinner here," she said, as if a spontaneous idea had illuminated the moment. The family, still hesitant, followed her lead, carrying trays and arranging everything on a makeshift long table. The people nearby, curious, cautiously approached. Some, with timid smiles, asked if they could help. Others, more reserved, watched from a distance. The mother, with a genuine smile, responded, "This dinner is for everyone. Please, have a seat." It was as if her words unlocked the moment. Little by little, faces that had been wary transformed into expressions of gratitude and joy. The table began to fill with faces the family had never imagined encountering: an elderly man who lived alone, a mother holding her baby, and a group of excited children running back and forth. The father, who once prided himself on the grandeur of his parties, was now serving soup to an elderly couple. His demeanor had completely changed. There was no trace of arrogance, only humility and satisfaction as he watched the smiles around him. Conversations that were once formal and cold among the family members became lively and heartfelt. The daughter, who had earlier complained about the absence of guests, now chatted enthusiastically with a woman who had lost everything, but still smiled with hope. The youngest son, always glued to his phone, was now playing games with the children, laughing in a way he hadn't in a long time. The square was filled with a spirit that didn't rely on luxury or wealth. The stories shared around the table were more valuable than any elaborate dish. Each person there brought a unique experience, and for the first time, the family began to understand the true meaning of Christmas. It wasn't about the perfection of the dinner, but the love, unity, and generosity that made the night special. As the food was shared, smiles multiplied. The father, watching the scene, quietly commented to the mother, "This is without a doubt the best party we've ever hosted." And for the first time, he seemed to truly believe it. At the height of the moment, a little girl approached the mother and handed her a small drawing she had made right there, using colored pencils she carried in her backpack. It depicted a table surrounded by people with a heart in the center. "This is how I see you now," the girl said with an innocent smile. The mother held the drawing, feeling tears well up in her eyes. In that instant, the transformation was complete. The dinner, once a symbol of status and ostentation, had become a celebration of humanity and compassion. The family, who had started the evening trapped by their unfulfilled expectations, was now immersed in a sense of gratitude they had never known. The family returned home changed. The silence in the car was no longer uncomfortable, but reflective. Each member seemed lost in their own thoughts, processing the depth of what they had experienced that night. The empty table, which had once symbolized frustration, was now just an insignificant detail. The true meaning of that evening wasn't found in their home or the food, but in the square, where smiles were shared and lives were touched. As they entered the hall, the contrast was striking. The richness of the decorations and the coldness of the space served as a stark reminder of who they had been before that transformation. The father approached the table, still adorned, but now empty, and sighed. "I never thought the best Christmas dinner of my life would be in a square with strangers instead of here." His voice carried a sincerity that had once seemed impossible. The mother, holding the drawing the little girl had given her, placed it on the refrigerator, replacing a shopping list that had been there. "This drawing reminds us of what really matters," she said. And for the first time, everyone in the family agreed. The children, who had started the evening focused only on themselves, had also changed. The daughter, who always sought validation through appearances, admitted, "Those people had so little, but they were so happy. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that before." The youngest son, always indifferent, smiled faintly and added, "I never thought helping people could make you feel so complete." The family's transformation wasn't just about what they did that night, but what they learned. They understood that Christmas isn't about extravagance, but generosity. It isn't about impressing others, but sharing with them. It's about looking beyond yourself and seeing others as worthy of love and care. The mother, emotional, reflected aloud, "We spent so much time trying to make everything look perfect that we forgot what Christmas truly means. Tonight, we were reminded that love is the greatest gift we can give." This experience became a turning point in the family's life. From that night on, their Christmas celebrations were never the same. Instead of exclusive guest lists, they began inviting people who genuinely needed company. Instead of elaborate, expensive dishes, they chose simple meals prepared with care to share with those who were hungry, not just for food, but for connection and affection. And so, the central message was solidified. The true spirit of Christmas isn't found at the most luxurious table or the grandest party. It's found in opening your heart to others, reaching out and offering what is most valuable: love, compassion, and presence. Many readers of the ebook Light in the Darkness, Finding Hope at Christmas, have shared similar stories. One woman, Anna, shared how, after applying the reflections in the book, she was able to transform her Christmas into a moment of reconnection with her family and with God. Another reader, João, mentioned how the teachings helped him overcome loneliness and find purpose in acts of generosity. These stories show how small changes can lead to profound transformations. And you, what has this story stirred in your heart? What changes could you make to live a more authentic Christmas? Life is made up of moments like this, when we open ourselves to others and discover what truly matters. The family was different now. Gathered around a simple table, illuminated only by the light of a small candle, they exchanged looks and smiles they hadn't shared in a long time. The little girl's drawing, pinned to the refrigerator, seemed to sum it all up. Unity, love, and a new meaning for Christmas. Just as this family learned that the true Christmas spirit lies in generosity and human connection, the message now turns to you. Who would you invite to your dinner if the chairs were empty? What would it mean to open your heart and share with those who need it most? If this story touched your heart, leave a comment. Share your thoughts or a story of generosity that left a mark on your life. Your words could inspire others to make a difference this Christmas. And if you feel you're searching for something deeper right now, I invite you to explore Light in the Darkness, Finding Hope at Christmas. This ebook was created for those who wish to strengthen their faith, overcome fear of the future, and experience Christmas with more purpose and inner peace. The link to access it is pinned in the comments of this video. This Christmas can be an opportunity for transformation, not just for you, but for everyone around you. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. And if you'd like to keep reflecting and finding inspiration, the next video is already on your screen. May your Christmas be filled with love, light, and hope.